Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start.
Okay. So far, we are not
I'm
streaming
just
yet.
connecting to the stream now. And we should be on any moment here. Just waiting to see who we have in the chat room. So far, we've got ourselves and we've got our old pal Tommy. And perhaps another one or
Yep.
two might show up.
DJ, we
Mhm.
are streaming.
Okay, we'll just
I'm
give
down
this
here.
two. Alrighty, we'll just give this a couple minutes more to see who else might come in the hallowed halls of the marionette here.
Yeah, let's give it a couple minutes. Of course, our old pal Tommy's right in there. DJ, what did you post in there? What is that thing where it looks like you're
Oh,
in a
I.
vagina? No, what is
uh,
what is that?
it looks like it's a person who has fallen down a chasm,
Yes.
and I just did a search for a GIF for Echo because there was nobody in the room at the time.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, Echo, Echo.
Hey, Tommy, did you get a chance to see the little girl lives down the lane, or did you see it before? I'm just curious if you've actually watched it. Yeah, give us a. And
Yes.
also, Tommy, if you can, I would appreciate you letting us know like how our levels are. Is our volume good, etc. We're putting a lot of responsibility on you, Tommy. A lot of
Because
responsibility.
DJ's got a new set of wheels, and we want to make sure that we kick the tires.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, he hasn't seen it. It's okay.
Okay, I have it on good authority that someone must have took a little CPs because they told me that they had looked it up. So, uh-oh, you failed the test. You got to take it over.
All right. Apparently, your voice is good and clear.
Excellent.
We might have to see something about mine. Oh, I'm soft and quiet. God bless it. Soft and quiet. Maybe I just need to bring my microphone up closer. How's that sound, Tommy?
Pretend that you're in Taxi Driver.
Yeesh. Yeesh. Taxi driver.
You can practice your auctioneer voice there. Dum 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 dum.
Oh,
More.
I got to do it more. All right. So I need to go back into. There was some place in Zoom that I could manipulate my volume.
Yep, you go down to your microphone on the bottom left next to the camera, and then it will give you audio settings.
Oops. All right. So output or input?
My volume is lower than Toppie's, Tommy. Oh, okay, he says that you're lower than me. Well, that happens. But we'll see if we can adjust.
All right. Now I just increased something here.
Okay.
Um, how did that help at all?
You sound louder to me. Let's see what Tommy says.
Okay. Hi, Billy. I see your hubby's there. Hey. Now, DJ, did you... Oh, oh, just yourself. Yeah.
He says you're louder now.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it there.
Okay, so we have a couple of folks in the room. Shall we get this going?
I think that it is time. It's after 9. I think we, yeah, I think we should start.
Right. Good evening and welcome to the Marionette Theater. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Good evening, Toppie. And It is the beginning of May now. Mother's Day is this weekend.
Believe it or not, that took me a little bit by surprise. I got to tell you, I just didn't expect it. I mean, I knew it was in May, but I mean, doesn't it? It's like kind of early this. I don't know what happened, but it took me by surprise.
I know that hubby was scrambling to find a card, and of course, since he works in the wonderful world of retail, he doesn't actually get the holiday off. But
No, I'll be working that day too.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But we've got an in lieu of date set up with Mama Billy, so hopefully we'll be able to get together to have lunch. But it's also spring, so have you
Yes.
already started doing your diligent duty there of mowing the lawn?
Oh yeah. Let's see. I've mowed it twice so far. And you know what happens once you mow it? It's like the grass just says, "Yeah, I'm gonna grow like 5 times faster now." And so, yeah, I got to. I've mowed it twice, and it's due. Like I need to do it like tomorrow if I can.
Hey, we thought we had that problem licked last year when we replaced our septic system. We planted clover because, well, all the research said you don't have to mow this, but the reality is that it takes a little while before it's strong enough to push the weeds out. So, yeah, we're mowing too, but it's because the weeds have grown like wildfire.
Sure, it's tricky. It's tricky. Lawns are tricky, no doubt about it.
Well, and it is the first Friday of the month, so we're tiptoeing towards the warmer months, and
Mhm.
it's been a little cool lately, but I hear that the warmer days are coming, and we've been getting some spritzing, which has helped because we've done some planting here at Chateau Starsage.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
Yeah, we put some things in the ground, and the neighbors are glad that we're making an effort.
Ah, well, good for them. Hey, Gertie. Yeah. Are you ready to do the intro? I've been waiting. Oh, okay. Okay, she's been waiting. Gertie, get yourself down there and let's introduce this little shoe tonight. Okay, fine. I'm ready.
Be careful about your drink, ma'am. Don't spill it on the stairs again.
Okay, whatever. Just do it. Oh boy, okay. Ren is a young girl about to enter her teens. She's starting over in America with her father, the poet. One evening, she's celebrating her birthday at home when a knock comes at the door. It's Halloween, and she's all alone. Or is she? Over the next few days, the landlady keeps dropping by and sticking her nose where it doesn't belong. She's looking for answers, and she just might get some. Cozy up to the fire and slip on your favorite caftan. I hope you like tea. It's the cookies that make it taste like almonds. It's time for Jodie Foster in The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. Hit it, boys.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen, a pinch of golden oldies, and a smidgen of streaming? It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Toppie.
Yes, indeedy. It is time for that show about film and television trivia. And tonight here at the Marionette, we are taking a trip back to the 70s and the era of the bicentennial.
That's right, 1976. DJ, set the stage for us what was going on in the world in 1976.
Alrighty, so the U.S. history in 1976, quite a year. The Lutz family flees their home.
Oh
Yeah.
no!
Talk about creepy Lutz family.
Oh no!
They fled their home in Amityville, Long Island, 28 days after having moved in. Oh, they must have found out they owed taxes. Leading
Get
to the
out! Get out!
leading to the story of the Amityville Horror.
Yes.
Also in 76, Clifford Alexander Jr. Who was he? Well, he was confirmed as the first African American Secretary of the United States Army. Yay, equality! The first 4.6 miles of the Washington Metro subway system opened, so you could take the train to
Oh,
work starting then.
holy cow!
Yeah, the 48th Academy Awards. Well, it may have been the 48th, but it was the first to be broadcast on television in 76.
Wait a minute. Is
Mhm.
that true?
It is. It had been around for ages before, and it was reported in the news and radio, but it was the first year they put it on TV.
The Academy Awards were not on TV until 1976.
Hmm.
Okay.
So in 76, also Conrail. You may not know about this. It was sort of the precursor to Amtrak.
Yeah.
It stood for Consolidated Rails Corporation. It has a fondness in our family because Grandpa, he retired from the railroad. Well, it was formed by the U.S. government in 76, and it took control of 13 major Northeast railroads that had filed for bankruptcy. Basically, after the highway system was built, the American public had less use for the train, so they all bundled together into Conrail. And let's see, it operated as a government-owned and operated railroad until 1986, which
Yeah.
led to Amtrak.
You know, DJ, when I play Monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
I love to own the utilities and the railroads. I just do. I don't care about Park Place. I just want to own the railroads and the utility waterworks or the electric light. Anyways, whatever. Okay.
Well, you know, Monopoly was the original instatement of that Pokemon phrase, you gotta catch them all.
Right.
So, let's see, Apple Computer Company, part of my childhood, that was formed by Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Of course, they helped American schools get their first computers because they were generous with the discounts. Uh, Flights aboard the Concorde, that fancy of all first class ships,
Yeah.
they began operating from DC starting in 76. So your senators and elected officials, they could just ride the rocket overseas now.
Right. Now that was like the Concorde was like it was just super fast, right?
Yeah,
It was just like fast.
they called it supersonic because just like the jets in the Air Force, they had a boom when they took off, which is part of why they're not around anymore today. But
Ooh.
anyways, also in 76, the first class of women, all women, was inducted at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yay, Naval Academy. Good for you.
Yeah, and then rounding the important events of 76, Jimmy Carter defeated incumbent Gerald Ford and became the first candidate from the Deep South to win the presidency since the Civil War.
Good for you, Jimmy. He's still going. Isn't that something?
He
He's
is,
still
and
going.
building houses.
He's still going. It's amazing. So we had some celebrity bursts that we know of in 76. We're going to start with Danny Pintaro. He was on Who's the Boss? Then there's Reese Witherspoon. She was in Pleasantville and Legally Blonde. She was born that year. Melissa Joan Hart. Clarissa Explains It All. And Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She was born that year. So was Joey Lawrence. He was in Blossom. And what is this called? Melissa and Joey.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember what Joey Lawrence was famous for saying on TV?
No, what?
Whoa!
That was it?
Yeah, that was his catchphrase on Blossom. He was the cool kid. He said, "Whoa."
Okay. Well, I mean, maybe that's all you need to get famous. Let's see, who else did we have born that year? We had Soleil Moon Frye, who I've never heard of in my life. She was on Punky Brewster. Okay, now I've heard of her. Alicia Silverstone. She was in Clueless and Blast from the Past, all born in 1976. Now, DJ,
Mhm.
so a little girl who lives down the lane comes out in the
Mhm.
theaters.
Mhm.
And who did it have to compete with?
Yeah.
What else was coming out in 1976
Oh,
in the movies?
well, that's a very good question, sir. Now, the little girl who lives down the lane actually made its premiere the year before at the Cannes Film Festival in France,
Oh.
which is quite interesting because as we get a little further along here, you'll know that Jodie Foster, the star of the film, has a fondness for the French language. But in 76, the other films that were out in America's theaters, the top three consisted of Rocky with Sylvester Stallone. The
Oh.
first one, it brought in 117 million. Now, keeping in mind these films from then, this was not adjusted for inflation. So, in 70s money, this made 117 million. So, think of it today, probably double that.
Yeah.
And then runner up to that was a film called To Fly. Now, don't worry if you've never heard of it. It
I
was a doc.
haven't. I have not heard of this.
It was a documentary, but it did quite well. In fact, it was the first one for the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum,
Huh.
and it chronicled the history of flight then.
So it was a documentary? Was that what it was? And it was
It
just
was, yeah. So you got to learn about famous people in history that contributed towards manned flight.
all right. I know the next one, A Star is Born.
Yes. Now, some people think that this was a remake, and that suggests this was the first one. No, no, no. The original that some people think is the original, the Judy Garland one, that was actually the first remake. So this is the second remake. But A Star is Born in 76 with Chris Christopherson, hubba hubba, and Barbara Streisand brought in 63 million that year.
Yeah. It's actually the third
Oh,
remake.
yes.
There was one before the James Mason one, there was one before.
Oh,
Even earlier. Anyways, go ahead.
okay. And, since we tend to like the underdog, we're not quite sure where Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane sat because it was more of an art style film. But, the things that were at the bottom of the rung, well, that included Logan's Run, a personal favorite.
It was bottom of the rung.
Well, it was in, the top 20 or so. So, but it it brought in 25 million. It starred Michael York. Now, here's a film that some of you may just be intrigued to catch by the name. Probably couldn't be made these days, but it's called Mother Jugs and Speed.
I remember that.
Oh, it involved an ambulance service, let's just
And
say.
Bill Cosby.
And Raquel Welch, which I remember as
And
a
Larry Hagman.
I remember as a kid, my brother used to get teased that Raquel Welch was his girlfriend.
Sure.
And the bottom of the box office in 76 was a film with Karen Black and Barbara Harris, Family Plot.
I love it.
13 million. It was an Alfred Hitchcock film.
It was his last movie. And certainly not his best. But, if you got to go out with Family Plot, it's not too bad. So the little girl who lives down the lane is based on a 1974 novel by Laird Koenig. And he's actually the guy that developed it into a screenplay. So he based it on his own novel. And it's basically about a 13-year-old girl named Rin Jacobs who lives alone in a house and murders people who threaten her solitary life. That's the novel, folks. Not exactly the movie. It was changed a bit, um, as we'll discuss further. But it was directed by Nicholas Gesner, and he's a Hungarian-born filmmaker. He worked mostly in France, and his movies are often characterized by, well, he did strange, quirky things, atmospheric movies, and usually had a mix of French and international actors. They were kind of eccentric. And after the 1980s, mostly this director would work in television. Um, and as far as The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, it was kind of an international affair. It was done in Canada, and it was kind of a weird French, English, Canada. Uh, they all backed it somehow. It was an international thing. So there you go.
Okay, so let's see. Sorry, just catching up here. Alrighty, so we have a bunch of folks that came together to make this film, all the talent that lined up, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the leading lady, Miss Jodie Foster. Now, she was only 13 when this was filmed, and so she was basically playing the same age as her character. Jodie was born in Los Angeles and began acting at the tender age of 7. She did a few commercials, and for a while there, I think it was Crest that she was a star for. I think her father might have been a dentist, but anyways, her first film was Napoleon and Samantha, film in 72, so just a handful of years before The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. And that starred Michael Douglas and Will Geer, who, of course, some of you may remember from The Waltons as Grandpa. And
Hi, Grandpa Man.
Jodie was injured by a lion during the filming of Napoleon and Samantha.
Oh, jeepers.
Yeah, and she still bears the scars to this day, which makes me wonder some of the films I've seen her in, if that was makeup or her real scars. The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane was her 9th film, and she would star in 6 films over the next 5 years, leading from 76. To date, Jodie Foster has 81 acting credits. She received 2 Oscars before she was even 30, and in more recent years, she prefers to be behind the camera. And one of my favorite films for the holidays stars Holly Hunter, and I've heard Auntie Vera talk fondly about it before. Home for the Holidays is actually one of the films that Jodie Foster directed, and we had a watch party for that last fall.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, I really liked it. Really liked it. That was that was good. That
It
was
was,
good.
it was one of Anne Bancroft's last roles, too.
Yeah.
So who do we have coming behind Jodie here on the cast, sir?
So we got Martin Sheen. Now he comes in as a real creepy character right away, very intrusive. And Martin Sheen was born in Ohio. He did a lot of his early acting on television, and there's this wonderful movie in 1967 called The Incident, and it was an independently black and white movie that had Beau Bridges and Brock Peters and even um, McMahon. Who was the guy that hosted Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show?
Ed McMahon?
Ed McMahon. Ed McMahon is in this goddamn movie. The Incident, 1967. And Martin Sheen was in it. Now, by the time he did The Little Girl Lives Down the Lane, that was his 11th film. He's very young. I mean, when you take a look at Martin Sheen, it's like, wow, man, you're young in this movie. But he would star in over 5 films over the next 5 years. And most recently, I think really wonderfully, Martin Sheen has been co-starring along with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin in Grace and Frankie. That's been going on real recently. Um, he was also famously on The West Wing that started in 1999.
Personal
He,
favorite.
yeah, he was nominated for the damn Emmy 6 times for his role as President Josiah Bartlett. How about that? I mean, jeepers. And he won a hell of a lot of uh, Golden Globe nominations. He's won 8 of them, as a matter of fact. Um, one of them was for his best performance as an actor in a TV drama series in 2001. I seems to have been titled "This Doesn't Seem to Make Sense to Me." DJ was
Mhm.
arrested more than 70 times, mainly for liberal protests. That's not the title, is it?
No, no, sorry. That was just a factoid about Mr. Sheen.
Okay. So is that something he a protester in something?
Yeah, Martin Sheen is a very active individual. When he's not on stage or performing in a film, he's very active in political and social issues. So, um, over the course of his career, he's been arrested more than 70 times for
Oh,
supporting
okay.
liberal issues.
Okay. And I can't not mention Apocalypse Now, uh, which was that crazy, crazy movie he was in, and he had a heart attack during the production. And in Hollywood, in the stories of movies and how they were made, well, you just got to read up on how Apocalypse Now was made. It's one of those weirdo, seriously weird movies. But let's get into uh, the little girl. The little girl who lived down the lane. Now, DJ, you are a super fan of Jodie Foster.
I am. In fact, I do recall that the first movie that I owned on DVD, yes, I had a VCR, when I moved out on my own. I'm not quite, in that class, but when I finally got a DVD player, Contact with Jodie Foster, which of course was adapted from the Carl Sagan novel, was my first movie on disc.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, some of her other films that are near and dear to my heart are, of course, Candle Shoe that she did shortly after The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. And of course, she's in that with Helen Hayes and David Niven. I mean, how can you not see that movie?
DJ, I still haven't seen it.
Oh,
I know.
well, the crud is clearing from the air, and I do hear that the highway to the chateau is becoming available.
So
But
maybe on the big screen at the Chateau Starsage, you'll be able to draw the big screen down. I might be able to
I
see it.
do believe so. We'll do a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous style. So before we continue on with the last person in the cast here, Toppie, we are about halfway through our show here. And this is where I would play the lounge music if I remember to put it on the board. But
That's all right.
in my pursuit of interviews with the cast, I didn't turn up much, but I did find something from just a handful of years after The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. And this is an interview with the McNeil Lair News Hour. Of course, that's a staple of PBS. And this was recorded in, I want to say 79,
That
and
sounds about
Jody
right.
was 16. So here we
What I
go.
what I like about this is that this shows, okay, she had an extensive career in Hollywood already, but she went ahead and got an education. she went to college, and she speaks of all this, and I think it just speaks to her uh, desire to be more, to just educate herself. I guess that's what I'm saying. So go ahead and play that.
Okay, the McNeil Lair News Hour.
Jody Foster has been acting 14 of her 17 years, but she goes to school just the same. Jody attends a lycée where all classes are taught in French.
My mother chose for me very young because I was in a public school and I was a little bit ahead of the classes, and I had always had an ear for languages. And so I just went into that one because I could pick up my studies anywhere in the world because there are lycées everywhere.
Jody graduates from the French-speaking school in June. What would that be the equivalent to in American education then?
Well, I suppose it would be equivalent to like the first years or the 2 years of college, because all the courses that are being taught me are college courses that are only offered in American colleges, not in the American high school system. But of course, I'll be going in as a freshman when I go into college anyway.
And where will you go to college?
I don't know yet. I've applied back east, Ivy Leagues, and I'm waiting to hear from them.
Schools like Yale, Harvard?
Places like that, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what would you like to study there?
Probably writing and literature. I don't know. You know, everybody goes into college and they say, well, I'm going to be a writer, and then they get their first D on their first term paper and they decide to be a biologist or something. So I don't know. I'd like to go in for that, and then if I change my mind, I will.
Her ultimate goal is to write and direct movies, but that doesn't mean she'll give up acting. Jody Foster loves her life. Even though she has worked since she was 3, she doesn't feel she has missed anything. On the contrary,
I missed all the bad things, really. I missed all the pimples and insecurities and, oh, what am I going to do? He doesn't like me. You know, I missed all the bad things about growing up, really.
do you have a steady boyfriend?
No. No. I don't have time. And I suppose I don't think about it very much.
What kind of fellow would you like, really, when you do have time to get around to that?
I don't know. I suppose I would like somebody who understood my business and who would be able to understand that when you're on camera and someone comes up to you and says, Jody, you're beautiful, that it doesn't mean anything, that it's just what you say.
For all her schooling, Jody has never studied acting. But working 13 years with some of Hollywood's finest actors and directors has been the best kind of coaching. Who are the actors or actresses that you look at and say, wow, that's the kind of actor I'd like to be?
Well, I think Robert De Niro is the best actor now in the world, the most versatile, and he has more to say. And I don't think there's anyone that could equal him. But as far as female actresses, I guess I think Ellen Burstyn is very good also. I love Ellen Burstyn. Katharine Hepburn, when you're young, Katharine Hepburn.
Alrighty, so just before we continue discussing the story itself, I can't help but mention the grande dame of this film, and she's only in a couple of scenes, Miss Alexis Smith.
Yeah.
She was born in British Columbia, Canada, and she had a celebrated career well before The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. She began acting in the 40s. She was signed by Warner Brothers after being seen in a college drama production, and she was subsequently billed as the Dynamite Girl and the Flame Girl in promotional articles. She had 18 roles just in her first 5 years of acting, some of them uncredited. During the height of her career, she co-starred with the likes of Errol Flynn, Charles Boyer, Cole Porter, Humphrey Bogart, and Clark Gable. What a lucky lady.
Yeah.
And Smith's films just prior to Little Girl was Once Is Not Enough, a film in 75, which starred Kirk Douglas, George Hamilton, and your favorite, Brenda Vaccaro.
I love Brenda. I'm Brenda Vaccaro. Hello, I'm Brenda Vaccaro. Hello.
By the 80s, Smith worked primarily in television, and towards the end of her career, she had a series of 11 guest appearances as the matriarch Miss Ellie's unstable sister-in-law, Lady Jessica Monford. So she got to be the crazy B word on a soap opera.
All right.
And sadly, Alexis Smith, she passed away in 93 at the age of
No.
72 after battling brain cancer.
Well, I think she was excellent in this movie. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. I saw this. Oh, it was not in the theater. I saw it on television some years after it had been released, and I was just sitting there watching this thing and being pretty enthralled and like, ew, 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 as I watched it. And I've always remembered it just somehow fondly. Like it was just kind of a creepy little thing. And I just always remembered it. And I watched it very recently probably for the first time since I saw it on television way back when. And I thought, it mostly holds up. Mostly. And I thought, yeah, still, this is kind of a little gem. DJ, what, you saw it, I think, for the first time recently. What did you think?
I did, and I have a fondness that's growing for films of this era because, of course, this is a time when we didn't have movie channels and people weren't glued to their TVs and they still had to have the antennas. So, scenes in stories like this don't, um, you know, um, surround. They're not focused upon somebody sitting on the couch and watching TV. They are actually having conversations. And so, the beginning of the story is right there on Halloween, and she's a fish out of water. She doesn't know that this is a holiday here. She just knows that it's her birthday. And then the strange man comes knocking on her door, who ends up being the landlady's son. But overall, I enjoyed this film for many different reasons, mostly because you didn't know what to expect. You go into it thinking, okay, this is a kid who may or may not be at home alone or by herself. Where is this going to go? Does she know how to take care of herself? Does she get intimidated when the adults come around? And it's fairly clear early on that she can handle her own. I mean, you just see the landlady coming in and putting her nose where it doesn't belong, and she just calls her out. She says, "This is my house."
Yeah, that's one of the most memorable things to me was the sense of intrusion. I think right from the beginning titles, we're introduced to Rin, and the music is sympathetic, and I think we're immediately liking her. And then at the very beginning of the damn movie, Martin Sheen intrudes on Halloween night abruptly and like you just like, holy Jesus, Martin Sheen. God, you're a jerk, and also you're a perv, but also this is such an intrusion. And then in subsequent scenes, there's more intrusions, and you just feel, I felt anyways, like, damn, these people are just intruding on her life. I didn't like it, and I was very sympathetic to her character. And interestingly enough, an oddball character comes into her life, and I'm trying to think of his name.
Oh, I'll give you a big hint. It's a video game character that Nintendo made popular.
Mario. Yeah, Mario comes into her life rather accidentally, but Mario is also on the outskirts of this community. I mean, I can speak from experience. What does he do for a hobby or whatever? He does magic shows for children. Hello, I'm raising my hand. I did that. Yes, that means you're a complete outcast and nerd. Just saying. But anyways, Mario is immediately likable, and he kind of gets caught up into the story of the strange girl who lives in the house at the end of the lane, and you really wind up rooting for them. They begin a very likable relationship, and it doesn't start out real solid, but eventually they win over each other, and they begin to work together to solve Rin's problems. And it's very likable. It's a very nice, natural relationship that starts out, and I really liked it. What did you think?
You pointed out that he's sort of an outsider, and they end up finding out that they kind of have things in common. They're both kind of off the radar in a sense. But in the same way, though, Rin, she's an outsider because, as I was saying, she's a fish out of water. Quite literally, she comes to, the America from England with her father. So you get the idea that something has happened, that they're starting over. But of course, the uh, the part that's told in the story in the beginning is just that her father is a writer. So of course, naturally, you just assume that a writer will seek inspiration, so they're just going to travel. But we learn something has happened that's caused them to need to travel. So she's starting over. And in the same way that Mario is sort of an outsider because he stands out, he's odd because well, he actually survived polio in a
Yeah,
sad twist of fate.
right. So that's another reason he's sort of like looked at as a strange person. He has he has a limp. He needs to have a cane. And it's just another reason that he's sort of looked at as like, oh, that's Mario, the oddball. He does
Mm,
magic shows, and he's gimpy. Yeah,
No one would suspect they say it's always the quiet ones.
kind of.
But she meets Mario, and it puts things into perspective because the landlady, who was one of the first people to intrude upon her, is she's no stranger to expressing her opinions. she's
Yeah.
n- she's nosing through her things. Rin is listening
Oh,
to a record of, I think it's Hebrew at the time.
yes.
And she says, well, one would think that French might be more useful around these parts, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
you know
Real
y-
racist viewpoint there.
Mm,
Um, Also, uh, she she notices like the music Rin listens to. She picks up like a record. She, oh, you're listening to this. It's like Chopin, it's like sophisticated music. And then this confuses her. It's like, "Ugh, what are you doing listening to this? You're just a young girl."
right. And then we learn that those opinions carry even further because the young man that she meets, Mario, well, he's the nephew of the policeman. And of course, with a name like Migliari, he's Italian. And the busybody in town, the landlady, she doesn't have much use for him
No.
because he gets a little too close to the truth, as we learn. Martin Sheen's character, the creepy son of the landlady, he's grown a reputation in town, and
Yeah. And let's just say Martin Sheen makes the creepy happen. I mean, he uh from the get-go, from his first appearance where he just intrudes upon Jodie Foster and barges into the room on Halloween night. I mean, he's just immediately, you just feel like you shouldn't be here. And that's how you
Hmm.
feel. That's how you feel.
And I don't know about you, but if it was my birthday and a stranger has invited themselves into my home, I don't care, who your mother is or what your position is in the town. I'm not giving you a piece of my birthday cake.
But she does.
just to kind of push him away. Get out
Yeah.
of here. Take your
Yeah.
cake and go home.
It's a desperate thing. She doesn't have any treats to give the kids for Halloween, but coincidentally, she had made this birthday cake for herself, complete with candles burning. And so she cuts 2 slices out and wraps them up for this perv's kids. And geez, I mean, and then in one of the next scenes, he's in a car with his door open on a pathway where Rin has to walk. And it's like, you freaking perv. And she just gives him a wide berth and ignores him. And you just know this isn't the end of it. This is going to go on.
And I think that one of my favorite scenes, although I really enjoy the character interactions, when Rin tells the landlady, "This is my house," and she puts her in her
Yeah.
place. My other favorite scene involves Rin going to, I think it was maybe the town hall or the library, and
Yes.
Mrs. Hallett, the landlady, basically says that she's going to do something about this little girl who's all by herself, and she's old enough to be in school, but she's not. So she tells the little girl that, she's on the school board. Okay, well, maybe that's the first white lie. And then she tells her that there's a meeting. And so Rin decides that she's going to find out, when does the school board
Right.
meet? And that's just such a terrific scene because Jodie's got this look on her face and she's like, "You're a liar, Mrs. Hallett."
Yeah. She knows. She knows that she's been lying. And that's a wonderful portrayal because we're shown all over the place in various ways that Jodie Foster's character of Rin, she's a little more, I mean, she's a little more intelligent beyond her years. She's listening to sophisticated music. She's reading sophisticated poetry. We know that she's got some smarts. However, she came across them, maybe because of her father, maybe because she had a hard upbringing, and she's fiercely, fiercely independent. But she's got some smarts. And part of the reason why it becomes endearing is that with all the smarts she's got, she runs into trouble. And Mario helps her out. At one point in an intimate scene, she says, Mario, I didn't know how much I needed you, because Mario bails her out on a
Mhm.
couple 3 major things. And she says finally, I didn't know how much I needed you. And she really did. I mean, she really
Mhm.
did need him.
Of course, it doesn't hurt to know that he's the policeman's nephew.
Right. Which is kind of a semi-comical kind of thing. There's a nice relationship there. The police guy, was it Mario's uncle, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He decides, because he knows this Martin Sheen guy is a perv. In fact, everybody does, but for whatever reason, nothing. He's never persecuted her, you know. But they know about him, and uh, uh, this police guy just says, "You know what? I'm just gonna stop by every once in a while and see how you're doing." And And yet, even he's not convinced that she's living there with her father. In fact, what happens when he does make a visit, and he's just very doubtful at this point. I just don't think you're really living here with your father. I think you're really living here by yourself.
Mm.
And down the stairs comes Rin's father. So,
Yeah.
and who is it really?
Oh, well, spoiler, folks, here, 1976 calling. The policeman's nephew, Mario, the master of the sleight of hand, has decided he's going to help Rin out in this little trouble she's got. And
Yeah.
he becomes Rin's father for a appearance
Yeah.
on the stairs.
Yeah, because he's this guy, he's this kid that does magic shows. What are his other interests? Makeup, cinema, magic, and he knows how to make himself up to make himself look like maybe Ren's father. And um, TJ, I got to ask you. This is boiling on spoilers, but Jeepers
Mhm.
Creepers, this is an old movie. DJ, when you were watching the end of this movie
Mhm.
and the noises came in when Rin went to bed that last night. You're sipping that tea. Good for you. And that trap door opened. The trap door that has several scenes in the movie. The trap door opens and the silhouette of a top hat and cape comes out. I really want to know, when you saw that, did you what did you think?
I honestly thought that it was Mario that had snuck
Okay.
in.
Well, yeah, and then like all at once you realize it's not Mario.
Mm.
I thought that was that was a great key moment in the movie. You
I mean,
realize it's not her friend, it's the fucking perv. It's the damn perv.
boop boop. Yeah, I mean, for a moment I wondered how could it be someone other than Mario? He's got the hat and the coat. But then I realized that Mario had helped her in the rain and had, caught a cold. And so those clothes had to have been somewhere else besides with Mario because she helped him change out of them. So that got the old gears turning for a moment there. But that was quite a frightful scene when the mysterious figure came up through the steps. And of course, that's where we last saw the landlady.
Right. So I learned that at some point, I think in between the writer writing the novel and then translating it into a movie, he originally was thinking of, okay, I've got my novel, it's kind of popular. He originally thought, I want to make this into a stage play. That's what he wanted to do.
Hmm.
And when you think of the movie and you look at it, most 95% of the movie takes place on kind of this one set, which is the interior of the house where Jodie Foster lives.
Right.
And um and you can kind of see like, hey, yeah, I could totally see how this movie was a play first, but it wasn't. It became a movie, and then much later they tried to make a play out of it, and I really can't tell if it ever went anywhere. I don't think it ever came on Broadway or anything, but they after the movie they did try to make it into a stage play, and actually that was kind of originally how it was written. And you can tell watching this movie that yeah, like, and practically everything is in this one set. So that's interesting. And um, I think that part where the trapdoor opens at the end and the silhouette of what we think is Mario with his top hat and cape, I can
Mm-hmm.
so see how that would be absolutely terrific on stage live. That would be, man, that would be a gas. That would be a great scene on stage live.
Right, because who knows that it may not have been Mario, it could have been her father.
For who knows what.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this movie, DJ. I kind of thought, when I saw it again for the first time, I furtively thought, don't know if it holds up. But I finished watching the movie and I thought, I kind of still like it a lot. Uh, your general feelings.
I like any movie that keeps me guessing, and certainly the characters that are in this story do just that. You don't know where people's loyalties are, you don't know what their connections are, and it's through the scenes and the conversations where you realize, oh, yeah, well, the landlady, she doesn't like the policeman. But is it because she's racist, or is there another reason? And of
Mm.
course, it might be both. And I certainly appreciated this story for the fact that it points that out that you take things for granted. You think, oh, this is just a helpless girl who's living on her own. No, she's not helpless at all.
Yeah.
She has some smarts. She's cracked a few books. Granted, she could probably only carry this ruse on for a while longer, but as you learn in the beginning, they've got a 3-year lease on the house, so that had to have been at least her original plan, because before everything happened, she and her father had a plan set out. He, made a joint account at the bank so that she could draw money on her own and being
I
a
kind
minor.
of, yeah, I kind of got the impression that the intention was that he could somehow keep her, because her father, this is what he desired. He didn't want her to go to school. He wanted her to stay independent, and he rigged up before his demise, that he knew was coming. He wanted to set her up so that she could live independently and not have to go to school, and not uh because her independence was super important to her. And that's why later, when these intrusive people come into her life, we just feel along with her, like, what are you doing bothering me? This is my house.
Mm-hmm.
So um I still really like it. DJ, if you had, you know recommend something that was like this, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe people who saw this movie, maybe they'd like this, what would you recommend?
Sure. Now, this is what we call our snack tray. Anything you might like if you enjoyed The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, which, if you're curious, we have caught it recently on Amazon on Prime Video. So if you already have a membership, you could see it for free. Well, something I think might be to your liking if you enjoyed this is a film that was adapted from a Stephen King novel. Here's the creep factor. And this came out in 95. It's got one of my favorites, Kathy Bates, and it also has Jennifer Jason Leigh in it. And this was Dolores Claiborne. Now, this is also set in New England. Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane was in a sleepy little town in Maine. But in Dolores Claiborne, it's about a big city reporter who travels to the small town where her mother's been arrested for the murder of an elderly woman that she works for as a maid. And as small towns are one to have. There's a whole bunch of drama that you later learn as you get into the story.
Very good. I think that's an excellent that uh well in Little Girl Lives Down the Lane, there's the way that intrusive woman is hit on the head with the trap door, and that basically kills her.
Mhm.
It's an accident, but in the same way in Dolores Claiborne, we're never sure until the end, did that woman fall down the stairs or was she pushed down the stairs? So I
Mm.
I like that comparison. That's nice. So I was going to recommend a movie that came out a bit before. You'll like, I mean, you'll uh,
The
I
little
remember.
girl.
Yeah, the little girl lives down the lane. And it's a movie that we've already done on this very show. It's called "You Like My Mother" with Patty Duke, and uh, it's just similar in tone and mystery and gothic effect. So we've already covered that. But if you haven't seen "You Like My Mother" and you liked the little girl who lives down the lane, I think you'll like my mother. And also, the very same year that Jodie Foster did this movie, Little Girl Lives Down the Lane, she did Taxi Driver. For heaven's sakes. Talk about a role. She was freaking nominated for an Oscar in 1976 for that movie. And also, way later on in 1997, she did a little movie called Contact that I dearly love. And if you wanted to see a more mature Jodie Foster in a really good movie, I recommend Contact. Um, and how could I not mention freaking Silence of the Lambs? For heaven's sakes. So I just couldn't limit it to one, DJ. Just couldn't limit it to one. So uh, why don't we haul out that gumball machine?
Okay, we're going to grab our bag of coins here. We have a celebrated history at the Marionette. We've been a venue for many a splendid thing. We were once a venue for vaudeville and, of course, magic shows. So here is a coin that we're going to drop in.
There you go.
Okay, hand that over to me, Toppie.
There you go. What do you say? What's our next thing?
Alrighty, so this is a TV series that came out, when was this? In 1983.
Yes.
And
That's
it
a long time ago, DJ.
and it has a cast of many, but an 80s celebrity on his own right, Mr. Mark Singer.
Yay.
And this is when aliens come to Earth to ask for our help. A few suspicious humans discover their
That's right.
horrific true intentions and prepare to resist. We're
Yes.
going to be discussing V next time on Matinee Minutia, and that's going to be on Friday, May 21st, here at 9 p.m. Eastern.
By the way, V, that's the name. If you didn't hear exactly, that stood for the Visitors. That was the name the alien race came, and it was first a miniseries, and then they did a sequel miniseries. Then it became a TV series. We'll be talking about all of that. But let's just remember Mark Singer's pecs, and we'll be fine.
I just remember when I was a kid, this was the TV show where people tore off their faces and there were lizards underneath.
That's right. And they ate like rats. They would like take these mice and they'd be wriggling up, and they'd lift their faces up, and they'd lower the mice into their mouths, and they'd eat them. Yeah.
Not much unlike Martin Sheen and the little girl who lives down the lane.
Well, okay, there was that hamster. We didn't even mention that poor hamster.
Yeah,
The little girl that lives down the lane. That poor hamster and
yeah.
that goddamn cigarette from Martin Sheen. Oh, God. Oh, geez.
Trigger warning, folks. Now, just so you know, in the backstory of that, they did have a hamster that had been donated by medical science for the film, so no animals were harmed in the making of this film. But when that scene comes up, if you are an animal lover, you may want to fast forward.
It's perhaps the most disturbing part, and it's how they portray this pedophile as just like objectionable, like super, like you are a bad person. Anyways, DJ, this was a wonderful movie we could do. So glad I could do it with you.
Yeah, I enjoyed this little visit to the 70s with you. It was certainly an enjoyable film, and I got to see one of my favorites in the beginning of her career.
There you go, Jodie Foster.
Yeah, so Toppie, if you could let us know who joined us this evening.
Well, we had a couple people here who've come and gone, but we had your hubby Billy, he was here, and we have our mainstay main man, Tommy Hash Browns. Thank you for being here. We had Tim from that podcast called Tastes Like Burning. He was here and probably is still listening. He just isn't showing up in the chat room at the moment. And perhaps others. There was who else? There was one other.
Oh,
DJ.
yeah, an old pal of mine.
V-Money.
Yes,
V-Money.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sir. So we're out here at the lobby, and we're ready to give the good old-fashioned goodbye. What did that sweet old couple on the radio say?
All right. So you gotta ask me, DJ. You gotta say good night, Gracie.
Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia. Our show streams live the first and third Friday of each month.
Go to UniVozPods.net, click the tower for audio, enter Discord for chat.
You can find the show wherever you listen to podcasts.
Tweet us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Join our Facebook group.
Visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Have an idea for a future show? Or just want to message us?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
Oliver.
This has been an Ollybug production.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
UniVozPods.net.